Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we're going to learn literally everything there is to learn about Figma in the world's simplest Figma tutorial on the planet while building out this awesome website UI. So if you're ready, download Figma and let's get started. We'll start off by opening up Figma. This is the screen you get when you open it up. We're just going to go up to the top here, click on create new design file, and this is going to create a new design file for us. And now this seems like a pretty daunting screen, especially if you're just starting UI UX design. Let's just break it down to as simple as we can. When you're just starting out, I like to recommend to click this button. This will close all of these additional bars, and now you can focus on what's important. This is your work area. This is the top bar where you know what's going on, which tab is opened up, which design file is opened up, and obviously your minimize, maximize, close buttons. And you also have the home screen, which you can click on to go back to the home page. We'll just go back to our file, and now we're going to talk about everything that's right here on the screen. For now, let's just start with the bottom bar. This is the most important section of the whole screen. This is obviously the selection cursor, and you can open this up and you can use a hand tool to move the page around, and this is especially useful when you have a bunch of things on screen. And you also have the scale tool to scale things up and down, but you obviously need things first in order to scale them. So let's just go back to the move tool. You also have these keyboard shortcuts, so if you press V, H or K, you can switch between all of these, but right now I'm just going to stick with the move tool. The next tool we have here is the region tools. So the first tool that we have right here is the frame tool. You can just press this tool and you can simply press inside of the screen to create a simple 100 pixel by 100 pixel frame. This is the simplest sort of frame you'll ever need, but I'm just going to delete this frame right now because I don't need it. Let's just go down here to this frame tool. If you are making a UI for already a tablet, a desktop or a phone, something that's already been established, you can select any of these layouts from right here. Let's just get this MacBook Pro 14 because that's like the standard desktop layout for the screen size of a MacBook Pro 14 actual laptop, and selecting your frame from the right side is actually very helpful, and we'll get into that later on. There are a bunch of other options as well. You can create a section out of your whole frame, or you can slice this frame, but right now we don't need to do that, so let's just skip to the next one. You can create simple rectangles by pressing R, and you also have all of your other shape tools right here. Let's just create a really simple rectangle. No worries about what it looks like, whatever. Right now we're just going to create a simple rectangle. Good thing with Figma is you can move this rectangle around and you'll see this bunch of red bars which basically indicate you've centered your whole thing. And now the right side basically comes into play. You can move the XY axis positions of this rectangle from the cursor here, so you can just go here and you can drag, and that's going to change this position for you. Or you can change the angle of rotation as well if you want to. You can obviously rotate it 90 degrees to the right, flip horizontally or flip vertically, and these are going to be better visible when we import an image, so we're going to get into this as well. You can change the width and height from right here. You can increase or decrease the width and height both from right here in the cursor. We're just going to align everything in the center now. You can reduce or increase the opacity overall, and also you can add a border radius. So when you add a border radius, it basically rounds off the corners in the center. And so now this is our new rectangle, which is slightly rounded off because we've rounded off all of its edges. You can also change the border color over here. Let's just change the border color to a really simple blue. You can bring this shade down, and this is also going to create this really nice light shade of blue for us. You can reduce the opacity of the color, so we're going to basically reduce the opacity right here, or you can just choose a light shade yourself. There is also a bunch of color options that are available right here. So if instead of wanting a plain blue, you want a gradient, which is going from one color to the other color with this really smooth switch, you can do that as well. So we'll have light blue for the first one, and we'll also use purple for the second color of the gradient, and I'm just creating an example gradient right here. Let's just get blue right here, and now you see this really smooth journey from blue to purple, which goes on using a gradient. There are a few kinds of gradients. So you have your linear gradient, which is in the form of a line. You have a radial gradient, which has a central radius, so you can change how much space it takes from the center. Let's just go back. You also have the angular gradient, which basically takes the gradient in the form of an angle, so you can change the angle here from right here from this circle. And also you have the diamond gradient, which does the same thing the angular gradient does, but in the shape of a diamond. Let's just go back to the linear gradient, because that is what we were working with. Using this button, you can rotate the gradient color, and you can flip the gradient using this button to 50-50 of the opposite directions. So we're just going to go back to the way things were. When you select one of these and exactly take them to the other end, now you have this red line, which basically indicates your line from here to here is perfectly aligned in the center, and it's not moving in different directions. You can select your color using the color picker over here, the eyedropper, by selecting any of these colors, or if you want to, you can also enter a hex code. So hex code are basically values that you're given for each individual color, and this is common for both programming and UI design. And you can just enter the hex code, RGB code, CSS code, HSL code, or HSB code. You can reduce the opacity here as well. You can just go ahead and change this number right here. And also you can move this box around in case you want to compare it with a bunch of other elements. You can select the colors that are available on this page, or get the colors from any of these design systems as well, but that's a little bit complicated. We'll get into it in the future. You can select any of these colors from right here on the page using this automatic eyedropper. And now that we have talked about all of the different gradients, you can also put an image as the background, and you can basically upload it from a computer or make an image using Figma AI. You can upload your image from any of the different images on your computer. And when you press open, now whatever image you have selected comes up. You can select the type of the fill of the image, so the image can be set to fit, which means you can see the entire visibility of the width. With fill, you can see the entire visibility of the height. You can also choose crop to crop the image, or make it smaller, shift it around, crop the actual space of the image itself using these blue handles, or shift around the actual image, squeeze it, squish it, make it smaller, bigger, work with all of its different dimensions. You can tile this image a bunch of times by selecting the size of the tile itself, and now you have all of these different frog images tiled one after the other. And you can obviously change the percentage of the tile and rotate this tile as well. Once you have an image, you can change the exposure, contrast, saturation, temperature, tints, highlights, and shadows. All of these are different image properties. You can experiment with them to basically have a lot of fun with the way these images work. You can also put a video in the background. If you are in professional mode, you can basically add these videos, but for most of you, if you're just creating a new Figma account like I have right now, you probably are on the free mode, which does not allow videos for UIs. So we're just going to skip over that one, but the process of importing videos is exactly 100% the same as importing images. Let's go back to this solid color, and we're just going to get a plain color for this one. Let's just get a plain black. So now we have our UI designs frame ready with us. This is the device that we're using, and we also have our very first rectangle ready with us. So the thing with rectangles is, if you place a rectangle at the top of your frame, so this is our frame, when you place a rectangle at the top, now you can align different elements in here, and now you can create an actual navigation bar. This is our first step towards creating our own UI design. Let's go to all of the other shapes that we can work with. So you can create simple lines in Figma. You can also create simple arrows in Figma, and you can decide what the arrowhead is going to be, whether it's going to be a line arrowhead, triangle arrowhead, reversed arrowhead, circle, diamond, round, or square shaped arrowhead. And you can also change the colors and whether they are on the inside, the outside, or the center of their relative shape. You can change their thickness and size, and you can also do a bunch of other things here. So you can basically create a simple ellipse. If you press shift while scaling this ellipse, the width and height ratio, which usually is 1:1 when you're creating a new circle, remains the same. If you press the ellipse button and press right directly in the center, you're going to get a 100 pixel by 100 pixel ellipse. You can also create a simple polygon just by clicking and dragging. You can change the border radius of the polygon, and you can increase, by going towards the top, the count of the edges of the polygon. You can also create images or videos, which you can just enter right here from your device itself. Let's just get our back here, and with that we have our image as well. You can press shift and then scale the image down, and this is going to scale accordingly. With that, we have all of the different elements that Figma allows us to use right here. So I'm just going to press shift, and selecting a bunch of elements basically allows me to select many things at the same time. So we're just going to get rid of them now. You can create a simple vector or a shape using the pen tool. Just press right here and you're going to drag. If you're familiar with any sort of tools of graphic design, for example Illustrator, GIMP, or even Photoshop, you are pretty aware of what the pen tool does. And as long as the whole shape is a closed curve, you can basically enter any fill color in here you want, and also change the stroke. The strokes center inside and outside are especially relevant here, because when you don't have a stroke, you have a shape that was kind of made like this. But now when you have a thick stroke, having that stroke take up space inside means that all of the width of the stroke and the color of the stroke is going to stay inside of the gray part. Having it stay outside means it'll stay away from all of your gray parts, and having it in the center means 50% of the space is going to be taken inside the gray part and 50% is going to be taken outside the gray part. This is like the simplest thing you can do. Let's get rid of this now. You can also use the pencil tool to create any random shape right here, and the rules for the pencil tool are also quite similar to the pen tool. With the pencil tool, you can change the color of the actual pencil stroke, change the thickness of the pencil stroke, and change the way these edges are made. So these edges can be none, squared edges, and rounded edges, and that difference is visible right here. This is the none edge setting, this is the square edge setting. So square edge setting gives you a little bit of padding compared to the none edge setting, and rounded edges give you these cute rounded edges. So these are the different things you can do. Let's just select them at once by dragging our cursor and then pressing delete to get rid of this. And now you can use the text box to basically start typing any text that you want. This is where the typography tools come in. So you can change the font family, change the font size, change the font weight, and also whether it is italicized or not. You can use apply variable. This is only available for a couple of fonts, and you can work with what thickness system you want to use according to these libraries which are already available to you in terms of their thickness. And these are automatic settings which you can delink and detach as well, and use your own thicknesses as well. You can align it you can align any text compared to its text box in the left side, center, or at the right side, and also do this vertically as well. So you can align it at the top, in the center, at the bottom, and you can change the color of this text as well to whatever you want. And now we're just going to get rid of this text. You can place comments as a person who is working on this design and talk about any elements that you want to talk about. For example, start working on the navigation. And now this is a comment which is going to stay here, and this is now going to be visible as a comment which I have made. So now I have this comment which talks about start working on the navigation. You can get replies from the Figma mobile app as well if you download it via the QR code or through the email. And now you can also remove this comment by pressing on tick, which means the comment issue has been resolved. The next section that we're going to talk about is the actions section, and this is very powerful in terms of it allows you to remove backgrounds, work with plugins, widgets, assets, and a whole bunch of really cool things. And it has really awesome features that you can use that go into quite a lot of depth. So we're going to talk about all of the different things that this button can do in the future. This is a very powerful button, in fact one of the most useful buttons ever, but you do need to have a little bit of experience before diving into this one directly. You can also switch to dev mode, and that's going to be available when you're going to hand off your final design to the developers, or if you are a developer, it gives you a bunch of really useful resources. Let's just go back to design mode because we don't need to worry about that right now, and we're going to start by creating our very simple first design. Our navigation bar is already here. We need a simple logo for our brand because now we're creating a new website for a new brand. Let's just draw this logo ourselves. We're going to press on the pencil tool, or you can press the pen tool, and let's just create a very simple logo for a productivity app which is going to create our logo. this is my very simple weird first logo for my productivity app. I'm going to press shift, and I'm going to press shift once again, and then I'm going to select all of these things at once. When you right click here and you group this selection, now you can move this around as one single element, and this is now my logo. You can also open this bar now, and now you can see this actual group and also the different elements involved. You can bring this element out of the group or bring it back inside, and now this is our actual group. I'm just going to place this right here. Now I'm also going to type out the name of my brand, my productivity brand, which is Aspire for this one. So I'm just going to type out Aspire. For productivity brands like this, you usually need to have a very specific logo, a very specific sense of branding. So we also need a very specific font. Let's increase the size of the font first, and then we can focus on what actual font to use. For this one, I feel like this is a very casual and yet very official, very useful sort of black and white website for me. So I'm just going to work with a bunch of fonts to see which one I like best. You can move around and see all of the different font options that are available right here. And I feel like we're going to need something that's very serious and yet something that's really useful right here. So I feel like we're going to have to wait a little while to just experiment and find our best, most useful font. Like this is the best one for us, and you can apply variable here as well, but I feel like this is going to be the thickness at which we're going to leave it at. Let's make this smaller, bring this right here, and I feel like this is too thick right now, so we're going to reduce the thickness, bring this font right here, and I'm going to increase the font size as well. Aspire is my brand name, Pompieri is my font family, and now we're going to create an entire UI. Usually when you're creating UIs like this, you need more than one font, one for the title text and one for the body text. So now that we have our font for the title text, we're also going to get one for the body text. This is going to be a very simple serif basic font. So we're going to create another font for the body text, and this is going to say description font. And I feel like this is going to need to be a little bit less rounded and fun right now. You can experiment to see all of the different options available. Basically, you can take your time deciding which font you like, but I feel like for this one, I'm just going to use a very simple font, Laura. We're just going to search for it. And since the font that we were using at the top was a sans serif font, which means there was no serif, these weird lines that protrude out of your fonts, now would be a good time to use a serif font which has these weird protrusions out of your font. We're going to reduce the size because obviously this is a description font, and we're going to change the color to white and sort of try to place it next to our title font to see what it would look like. I feel like it does work like with a pretty good level of similarities, and so we can use it. We can also use the italics for highlighting important elements. So I feel like this is a perfect font combo for our first UI. Let's change this color back to black, and we can start working on the rest of the UI. So I feel like we need to have a couple of different links to get started. So when you're getting started with your very first UI, you need a bunch of links. For example, home. Let's just Control C, Control V, copy and paste this. About, and also product. And now that these are all of the different links that we're using on our top navigation bar, we also need to add one final button, which is going to be not similar to a link but a button. It's going to be having a different background color, having a little bit of a different styling, and this is going to be our most important button. So this is going to say buy now, and you know what, let's just make it say try now, because this is the most important step that we need all the users to take. And now I'm going to show you the simplest way to create a button. So you're just going to right click, frame selection, add a layout, and with that we have created a frame which is going to hold our button. And now we're going to add a little bit of padding right here on the left and right, add some padding at the top and bottom, and then we're going to add a background fill to the button, and we're going to change the color of the button. Let's just change our color of the button to white and change the text color to black again, and the font is going to obviously be Pompier, which is the font that we were using in the beginning. We are also going to round this off, because since our navigation bar is rounded off, now almost all the rectangles need to be rounded off just so they match the same exact vibe. And we're going to increase the font size for this one, because obviously this is the more important button, so it needs to be a little bit more highlighted as compared to everything else. Let's just reduce the font size back to 20 and increase the padding at the top and bottom, left and right, just so this button can be clearly visible as our main CTA or call to action button. Size can be adjusted as much as you want. And now we're going to just align all of these elements perfectly together. And now we're going to zoom out and place this perfectly in the center. You can press the control key and move your mouse cursor up and down to align it perfectly in the center. Sometimes when you've created a UI, a couple of links appear too small, and so you might want to increase the size to 18. Let's just do that. And now you want all of these to have the equal amount of spacing between each other. So you're just going to go right here, add a little bit of spacing, make sure it's equal between each other. We're going to place this right here and just leave it wherever it is. And now we have this really simple first header ready with us. We're going to start by importing an image inside of this UI. Now that we're back here, we're going to import an image. Go down here. If you don't yet have the image button selected, you're going to go to this slider and go to the bottom, select image. And now I'm just going to simply import this very simple pretty image. If you don't yet have this image, you can find it in the Discord group linked in the description. This is the best Discord community for UI UX design in the world out there right now. So just go join down below and gain access to all of the different images that we're going to be using in this video and every other video on this channel. And I'm just going to simply import my image. Sometimes this image is really big, so you just have to press shift and drag this down, place it entirely in the center. I'm using a simple SVG image for this one. And so now we're just going to place this image in the center, and we're going to have it say productivity simplified. This is our tagline. We're going to increase the font size, change the font back to our title font, which is Pompier, and obviously make this smaller. Let's just place this right here. We're going to select this, bring this image out here in one corner, take this to the top, make sure to not mix it up in the frame, and you're going to press this button. This is going to make sure we have auto width enabled, so it's automatically taking up the amount of width it needs to. Make sure to align it with the red line in Figma. This aligns it perfectly in the center, and press shift to bring this image down to a smaller size. And now we're going to take this image right here, and we're going to place it exactly under our actual font. Let's place this image perfectly in the center. You can move this around to align it perfectly in the center, and just press the text button to now type out the description for this product, which is going to be boost everyday professional productivity with smart office tools and effective time management and collaborative tools. And now I'm just going to make my screen smaller, take this whole text, bring this down here, zoom in, change the font family to Laura, reduce the font size, and we're going to bring this down to a 32. Make this as wide as we need to, align it perfectly in one of these corners. And now that we have all of these different elements, I'm going to align all of my text on one corner, all of my images on other corner. So I'm just going to tag this image over to my right side and take this text over to my left side. I'm just going to make this width smaller from right here. Make sure to lock the width and height, so when you scale the width and height down, they're scaling down or up in the same exact ratio. So we're just going to change our height back here again to a 680. Bring this right here, take this text, take this description, reduce the size of this description to a 28, make this much wider, put it directly here in the center. And also we're going to create a really simple call to action button, which invites all of our users to act on the task that we're basically wanting them to do now, which is to try our new product. So I'm just going to select both of these, align them right here, and I'm going to create a very simple button. Now I could go ahead and create a new button if I wanted to, but right now I want the user to basically work with the button that looks really similar to the rest of my design. This is for coherency and consistency, and I also want to reduce my effort in doing the same exact thing much easily. So I'm just going to select this button, copy and paste it, bring this button down here, make this larger in size, make sure to press shift to make the width and height scale in ratio equally, and I'm going to increase the font size now. Let's just bring this font size up to a 48. Change the color of this button from a color to which is right here in our image. You can also get it from the eyedropper tool if your image is not showing you the colors down here. So these colors are basically for SVG format images. My image is in SVG format. If you have a PNG or a JPG, you might have to use the eyedropper tool to get the color yourself. I'm using a color from right here in the image. This is really bright, and one of the main considerations while using this is the first thing that the user looks at. So when this is the first thing that the user looks at when they enter your site, now you have a really good UI, because the first and most important thing that the user is focusing on is the action that we want them to take. This is effective UX design or user experience design. So just to simplify what we've learned today, what we're building right now is a website UI, which is the user interface, the thing that the user works with in order to do what they want to do. And using the right colors for our buttons, placing the text on one corner and images on the other corner, and having a clear navigation bar is UX or user experience design, where we're thinking about how the user who's experiencing this would most effectively be able to use our product. Another effective hack that you could try is you could change the color of the call to action button right here to one of the colors that's already present in the title bar. Now this is also inviting a lot of attention, and now this is also something that the user would want to click on. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have created our very first hero section. This is the main most important section of any landing page or any website for that matter. We've created our very first hero section of a UI design while we've learned all of the basics of Figma, simplified in literally the simplest Figma tutorial video, teaching you all of the basics you need to know to get your UI design journey started. I hope you liked what we did here. In the next video, we'll talk about all of the advanced actions, assets, plugins, and widgets we can work with, as well as Figma's AI features to be able to create more incredible, awesome UIs. So just subscribe, click on the like button, let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you in the next one. All right, love you, bye.